today's big idea is bigger than the blast from a tuba, which is very loud. Because today's big idea is we can follow God. Hey Kids Club, I'm May. And when I was in 3rd or maybe 4th grade, I liked to pretend I was an orchestra conductor. I was the smallest one in the family and the youngest one in the family, so sometimes I kind of felt like people didn't listen to me as much. So I would go to my room and I would wonder what it would be like to direct an entire orchestra where everyone would follow my every movement with precision. And then, when I got older, I met someone who actually conducts a real orchestra. This is my friend Amy, but her students call her Dr. C, so that's what we're gonna call her. You are an orchestra conductor, and that means the entire orchestra follows you.
That's right.
Do you think we could test that out?
Sure can.
Okay. Okay, so I have a couple questions for you about conducting an orchestra. First of all, what do you have to be good at to be an orchestra conductor?
Well, you have to study music for a really long time. So you have to be a good musician to be a good orchestra conductor.
What instruments do you play?
I play the cello, which means I'm a cellist. But when I first started, when I was a kid, I played piano, and then I also played oboe, and I even played trumpet.
Have you ever tried to play accordion?
No, but I'd like to.
What about didgeridoo?
No, that'd be really cool.
What about slide whistle? Have you ever tried that?
Yes.
How about the vibroslap? Have you ever played that?
Yes. Have you played the vibroslap?
Yes.
Okay, all right, we have that in common.
Okay, so I just watched you conduct this entire orchestra. How many people are in this orchestra?
Usually 40 to 50.
Wow. So how do you get 40 to 50 people to pay attention to you and follow you?
Well, when you want to do something, you have to practice. And so we practice and we train. And if you're a conductor, your job is to get people to follow you and to play with you. So everybody knows that that's my job. And everybody in the orchestra knows it's their job to watch me really carefully and to keep their ears open so that they're listening. And I will show them what to do next. And as soon as I show them, their job is to respond to that.
So when you're conducting, I guess, those hand motions, you're not showing them what to do right at the moment, you're showing them before they have to do it?
Everything I do happens a split second before them.
Wow.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so if I want them to play loud, I show that right before they play loud. Or I show them how fast to play, or I show them if it should be kind of tender, or if it should be more angry. I know what we're supposed to do, and it's my job to show them what that is right before they do it. I give them confidence to play what they are playing as well. So even though they might know what they're supposed to do next, it's kind of my job to be like, yes, that's correct, do that. Or they might go to play something, and I know that they're in the wrong spot. So sometimes they'll go to do something, and I give them an expression that's like, no, not yet.
Wow.
Now.
How do you pay attention to all of that?
I'm constantly looking at who needs me and who doesn't need me. And if that person needs me in that moment, I'm gonna give my attention there. Or I'm gonna show them a little bit more. And then I'll see other people, they're doing okay, and I'll maybe back off a little bit.
That's really cool because we're talking to you because this orchestra is kind of a picture of how we can be with Jesus, that we listen to him. And when you said that you show them what to do before they need to do it, Jesus did that. But also what you said about they have to be watching you, but you are paying just as much attention to them and constantly noticing, do they need you? Are they okay? Do they not need you? Can you pull back a little bit? That's really cool to remember because sometimes when I think about following Jesus, I feel like it's just me following, just I follow Jesus. But really, it's him watching me too. He's paying attention to me too, while I'm paying attention to him.
Yeah, and I would say I have to pay even more attention to everybody than I expect them to pay attention to me. And I'm also trying to pay attention of how that person fits into the whole of everybody else.
Wow.
In an orchestra, I like to tell people that everybody's part is super important. You know, sometimes you're playing a part and sometimes you rest, but no matter what you have, every part is crucial. And if one person is missing, if one part is missing, the whole just isn't the same. I think an orchestra works because everybody trusts each other. And if every day when I'm rehearsing the orchestra or doing performances, I'm building everybody's trust. And I say, you know, if you follow me, this will work out. And then they see that it does, and then we get better together. And when I see other people following me, I know that they can handle more and more. And sometimes we can play music that's more difficult based on how I'm seeing them trust me and respond to me.
Just out of curiosity, could I try to conduct your orchestra?
I guess.
Let's do it. Now, why didn't the orchestra sound as good when I conducted as opposed to Dr. C? Well, because I don't really know how to conduct an orchestra. I didn't really know what I was doing, so the orchestra didn't know what they should do either. So it sounded like this instead of like this. Dr. C does a great job of leading this group of musicians, and they do a great job of following her. We can learn a lot about how to be good followers from this orchestra. They were following Dr. C, their conductor, and we can learn more about how we can follow Jesus. Number 1. Can I get a flourish? To follow someone well, you have to know who you're following. When I was in charge of the orchestra, it didn't sound very good because I didn't know what I was doing. But when Dr. C is in charge, the orchestra knows they can trust her. They know exactly where to look, and they know what to do because she knows what she's doing. And we know where to look for help too. It's Jesus. We can always trust Jesus. We can always talk with Jesus. He's always there when we look for him. Number 2. To follow someone well, you have to pay attention. Did you notice that all Dr. C had to do was this? And the whole orchestra picked up their instruments, and then they were ready to play. But what if they weren't paying attention? They might miss when Dr. C gave them the signal to start playing. When we choose to follow God, we have to pay attention too. We have to know how to listen to him. Think about some ways you can listen to God for a few seconds in your head while this beautiful music plays. Number 3. Did you notice that every single musician knew what part they had to play? The trumpet player wasn't trying to play the timpani, and the oboe player wasn't trying to play the flute. They had practiced their part, they knew they could trust Dr. C, and they were paying attention, so they knew how to follow her really well when she gave the signal. And when we follow God, he gives us a specific part to play too. Everybody has different strengths. Some people are really good at teaching. Some people are really good at singing. Some people are really good at helping other people who need it. Some people are really good at math. Some people are really good at building things. Some people are really good at coming up with fun games. We all have a part to play, and the more we practice it, the better we get at it. When we follow God, we have to know who we're following. It's Jesus. How to listen to him, and know the part that we can play. In a minute, you're gonna get some practice following, but right now, we're gonna watch a story about some of the people who followed Jesus. There were 12 of them, and Jesus taught them about the kingdom of God and how to live like he did and love people like he did. Check it out. God's story. Jesus calls disciples. So part of God's story is about how Jesus called his disciples, and it goes like this. When Jesus lived here on earth, he did amazing things, like healing people of their sickness and forgiving people of their sins. Jesus came to show us what God is like, and he chose some people to follow him and learn his ways. Those people were called disciples. That means someone who follows Jesus. One of these disciples was named Andrew. One day, Andrew was listening to John the Baptist when Jesus walked by. John the Baptist had been teaching that Jesus was the Son of God, so Andrew decided to follow Jesus home. Andrew wanted to learn from him, so he spent the day getting to know Jesus. After that, Andrew went and told his brother Peter that he had found the Messiah, their long-awaited rescuer. So Peter went to meet Jesus too. Later, when Peter had spent the whole night fishing without catching anything, Jesus got into Peter's boat. He said, "Go out into deep water. Let down the nets so you can catch some fish." Peter obeyed, even though it didn't make much sense. And guess what? He and all the other fishermen caught so many fish that their boats began to sink. After that, Peter realized that Jesus was more than just a great teacher. He was God's son and the rescuer God had promised. Jesus said, "Don't be afraid. From now on, you will be catching men." Jesus wanted Peter to know that he would help others follow Jesus too. Another time, Jesus was going to Galilee when he met a man named Philip. Jesus said, "Follow me." And Philip did. Then Philip went and found his friend Nathanael sitting under a fig tree and told him that he had found Jesus of Nazareth, the one that the prophets had written about and who would become the king. But Nathanael wasn't so sure. So he went to see Jesus because he wanted to know if it was true. And when he did meet Jesus, Nathanael knew he wanted to follow him. After that, Jesus saw a man named Matthew working at a tax collector's booth. Back then, tax collectors were some of the most hated people around because they took more money than they were supposed to and usually didn't get in trouble for it. But Jesus went right up to Matthew and said, "Follow me." So Matthew did. While Jesus was having dinner at Matthew's house, other tax collectors and sinners came and ate with him and his disciples. The religious leaders saw this and they asked why Jesus would eat with people like Matthew and his friends. Jesus said that it's not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. Kids, everyone messes up, and we all need a rescuer, even if we try to act like we're perfect. The religious leaders thought they didn't need any help, but Matthew knew that he did. Anyway, Jesus called 12 disciples: Peter, Andrew, James, John, Philip, Nathanael, Thomas, Matthew, another James, Thaddeus, Simon, and Judas. And through them, many amazing things were done in Jesus' name. Some of them wrote books in the Bible that we read today, and they helped others follow Jesus all over the world. Some of the first disciples were poor and even outcasts, but Jesus still called them to follow him because Jesus wants his kingdom to have all kinds of people, no matter where they live, what they look like, what they own, how old they are, or what cool dance moves they can do. Anyone who chooses to follow Jesus is a disciple, whether it's someone who got to see and hear Jesus in person, or whether you learn about him today. That means we can follow and obey Jesus. We can learn from him and live like he wants us to live. We can teach others and show them what Jesus was like, and we can trust that Jesus will help us understand what it means to follow him. And that's the story of how Jesus called his disciples. So, in case you missed it, here's the quick version. A disciple is someone who follows Jesus. Some of the first disciples were Andrew, Peter, Philip, Nathanael, and Matthew. Jesus showed Peter that he could help others follow Jesus. Jesus showed Nathanael that he knows everything about him. Jesus called Matthew, even though others thought he was a sinner. And Jesus calls all of us to be his disciples. Welcome back. We're gonna play a game that's all about following. It's called Simon Says. Now, I don't know if Jesus ever played a game like this, but I know he liked to have fun. So to practice our following skills, we're gonna play a giant game of Simon Says. And just so you know, you aren't the only kids learning about following God today. Right now, there are kids in different buildings, in different cities, even different states, playing this game with you, all to help us all remember that we can follow God. Sometimes it can feel hard to follow Jesus, but you can be sure that you aren't the only one trying to follow and obey Jesus. You are not alone. There are lots of people doing their best to love people like Jesus did and live the way Jesus did, with kindness and courage and love. So, the way we're gonna cement this in our brains today is by playing the mostest, epicest game of Simon Says there ever was. The people in the room with you will play, and remember, lots of other kids are following too, even if you can't see them. Okay, let's do this. Oh, and usually in Simon Says, there's just one winner. But when we follow Jesus and do our best to be like him, there aren't winners and losers. There are just people trying to be kind and love the way Jesus loved and live the way Jesus lived. So this is non-elimination Simon Says. Just do your best to follow along and do what Simon says. If you miss one, that's okay. You can start listening again right away and try to follow along for the next command. And hey, maybe you've never played Simon Says before. If that's you, here's how it works. I'll be Simon. See the S? When you hear Simon Says before an action, you do it. But if you don't hear me say Simon Says before I tell you an action, you don't do what I say. So here's a test. Simon says jump up and down 3 times. Good job. Now yawn. Ooh, I didn't say Simon Says, so I hope you didn't actually yawn, because, how rude. Just kidding. Okay, let's get this game going. Simon says clap your hands. Simon says stop clapping. Simon says bark like a dog. Stand on 1 foot. Did I get you? If I tricked you, say, "Oh man," on 3. 1, 2, 3. Oh man. Okay, let's get back at it. Are you listening? Are you following me? Let's go. Simon says roar like a lion. Wow. Simon says make an elephant sound. Simon says oink like a pig. Simon says sit in an invisible chair. Simon says laugh with your mouth shut. Simon says stand up. Simon says snap your fingers or just give it your best shot. Simon says run in slow motion. Simon says freeze like a statue. Simon says raise your hands in the air. Pretend you're sleeping. Did I get you? If I did, on 3. 1, 2, 3. Oh man. Simon says get your wiggles out. Simon says stop. Simon says give yourself a big hug. Simon says shake one leg. Simon says shake the other leg. Simon says you can let go of hugging yourself. Simon says shake one arm. Simon says shake both arms. Simon says stomp your feet. Simon says stretch out wide like a star. Simon says scrunch up tight like a ball. Pat your head. Oh man, if you're still with me, good job. Simon says breathe in. Simon says breathe out. Simon says bend your knees. Simon says sit down. Simon says sit crisscross applesauce. Simon says open your eyes. Simon says give a thumbs up. Wow, you just did an incredible job following me, and you can do an amazing job following God, because remember, we can follow God. And when we do, it looks like helping our friends, family, and neighbors. We can tell them about Jesus, but we can also show them what Jesus was like. And when we do that, people will know Jesus better. And now, Simon says it's time for a recap.
Recap.
God says he loves us. God says He wants us to follow Him. God says we can help our friends, family, and neighbors know Jesus. God says we can tell others about Jesus, and we can also show them what Jesus was like. God says we can love them, serve them, and put them before ourselves. God says when we do this, people will know Him better.